I've got a drone. Fox away.
50 years ago, an alien force known as the Formics attacked Earth. Tens of millions died. It was only through the sacrifice of our greatest commander that we avoided total annihilation. We've been preparing for them to come back ever since. The international fleet decided that the world's smartest children are the planet's best hope. Raised on war games, their decisions are intuitive, decisive, fearless. I am one of those recruits.
I've watched through his eyes. I've listened through his ears. And I tell you, he's the one.
That's what you said about his brother.
Brother tested out impossible for other reasons. Nothing to do with his tactical abilities.
I got you. Run that way, go back.
He's gonna crush him.
Come on! You can't do that.
You gotta use what's around you.
No, I had you all the way through the belt.
You miscalculated your trajectory relative to the incoming asteroid.
Don't lecture me, Wiggin. You cheated.
It was a good game. Thanks.
Hey! Play again.
Sorry. Tomorrow, maybe?
You see? He's got a talent for strategy.
His humility could be false. Part of a strategy to avoid antagonizing an ego-driven opponent.
Which makes him even smarter.
He may be a genius, but we need someone the others will follow. A leader. He can't win on his own.
Well, let's see how he handles rejection.
Andrew Wiggin. Andrew Ender Wiggin. Please report to the infirmary. Ender Wiggin to the infirmary.
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.
Once in this room, you begged me to let you learn. Now I'm told you question every lesson, preferring to teach yourself.
Once in this room, you told me to open my eye. Now I'm being told to blindly accept rules that make no sense.
Like the rule against conjuring a gateway in the library.
Wang told on me?
You're advancing quickly with your sorcery skills. You need a safe space to practice your spells. You're now inside the mirror dimension, ever present but undetected. The real world isn't affected by what happens here. We use the mirror dimension to train, surveil, and sometimes to contain threats. You don't want to be stuck in here without your sling ring.
Hold on, sorry. What do you mean, threats?
Learning of an infinite multiverse includes learning of infinite dangers. And if I told you everything else that you don't already know, you'd run from here in terror.
Your curiosity could have gotten you killed. You weren't manipulating the space-time continuum, you were breaking it. We do not tamper with natural law. We defend it.
How did you even do that? Where did you learn the litany of spells required to even understand it?
I've got a photographic memory. That's how I got my MD and PhD at the same time.
What you just did takes more than a good memory.
You were born for the mystic arts.
And yet my hands still shake.
For now, yes.
Not forever.
We're not prophets.
When are you going to start telling me what we are?
While heroes like the Avengers protect the world from physical dangers, we sorcerers safeguard it against more mystical threats. The Ancient One is the latest in a long line of Sorcerers Supreme, going back thousands of years to the father of the mystic arts, the mighty Agamotto. Same sorcerer who created the eye you so recklessly borrowed. Agamotto built 3 sanctums in places of power where great cities now stand. That door leads to the Hong Kong sanctum. That door to the New York sanctum. That one to the London sanctum. Together, sanctums generate a protective shield around our world.
The sanctums protect the world, and we sorcerers protect the sanctums.
From what?
Other dimensional beings that threaten our universe.
Like Dormammu.
Where did you learn that name?
I just read it in the book of Cagliostro. Why?
Dormammu dwells in the dark dimension, beyond time. He is the cosmic conqueror, the destroyer of worlds, a being of infinite power and endless hunger, on a quest to invade every universe and bring all worlds into his dark dimension. And he hungers for Earth most of all.
Pages that Caecilia stole.
A ritual to contact the Dormammu and draw power from the dark dimension.
Okay. Okay. I'm out. I came here to heal my hands, not to fight in some mystical war.
I don't know what to say, really. 3 minutes till the biggest battle of our professional lives. All comes down to today. Either we heal as a team, or we're gonna crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen. Believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. Now, I can't do it for you. I'm too old. I look around, I see these young faces, and I think, I mean, I made every wrong choice a middle-aged man can make. I pissed away all my money, believe it or not. I chased off anyone who's ever loved me. And lately, I can't even stand the face I see in the mirror. You know, when you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. Hell yeah. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw with our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's gonna make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's gonna win that inch. And I know if I'm gonna have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. The 6 inches in front of your face. Now, I can't make you do it. You gotta look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now, I think you're gonna see a guy who will go that inch with you. You're gonna see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're gonna do the same for him. That's a team, gentlemen. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals. That's football, guys. That's all it is. Now, what are you gonna do?
Hey all you epics, welcome. Andre Hodge, Infinite Potential Healing, serving the truth with you once more. I hope this finds you well, and I hope whatever's going on in your world, you're making a lot of progress, and if you've allowed me to be a part of that, and I've helped you acquire a lot of data to help you in your own life navigate with more success, or at least with more awareness to know what's going on, then it's a privilege and an honor, and it is always an honor to be here with you. And as I say, your precious peak awareness time, you know, like we've each had amazing journeys and battles and had to overcome many things to even be here, let alone for you going through that to find me. And it's always a great honor, right? So what I try and do is impart a lot of data to help with you in your own intuitive potential. I don't try and tell you what's going on. I like people to be next to me in the trenches, and so if I help you see what's going on, I'm not trying to instill anything. It's just, this is what I go through, this is what I get, and what I feel is a lot of the components I offer are like data points that probably no one else is offering and stuff like that. And the way I see things, I come from a purely altruistic foundation of wanting the win-win for everyone. I don't have any vested interest. If I have a vested interest, I'm discerning that because I don't want it to limit the potential of what you gain from this and stuff. So that's, a lot of people have that. And then if you are operating with an altruistic foundation, then that might be why you get a lot of pushback, because most people have vested interests. They don't even know it, and they're run by things and stuff like that. And that's when the judgment and the rejection comes in, because they don't want their vested interest being seen, sort of thing. So if you're here, I am grateful and stuff. And it might be interesting. You might not have been around me for a while and stuff like that, and you might, for some reason, have found me for this one. And a lot of the way I'm run is by instinct and relative to the purity, relative to pure source. And then a big variable that I haven't really talked about, and I've been the reason why I sort of might be a bit cryptic, and I think I'm being totally transparent and obvious and stuff, and it might be like, what's Brett up to? What's he talking about again? You know what I mean? So I might be holding stuff back, but there's stuff that's in the multi-D, right? And ideally I leave a gap in what I say 3D sort of thing for you to engage your pattern recognition and find, a bit like the metaphor of give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, teach a man how to fish, you feed him for life, sort of thing. So I operate in a way that I'm subtly leaving gaps in what I'm saying publicly to allow you to close the awareness dot to dot by your own intuitive muscles. So I operate a lot like that. And then I leave a fair bit in a data download on the multi-D. I know that because going against the contrarian sort of reality view of things, of what's going on, it can be tough, right? And you can get a lot of pushback and stuff like that. And so what I intend to do with this release is basically release a Galactic Special Forces 39, and it's going to be related to pure source healings, the evil under L, and L is related to the Anunnaki sort of stuff, right? And so I've been aware of stuff for a long time, and I'm many years into this. I've been going since 2008, and I got involved with different people over the years and had many different experiences. And the space I'm in now is fascinating to me, right? Because it's like, holy F, like, you cannot be serious. Like, it's a joke. Like, just the consistency of what's been offered with no opposing view. That's why AshayanaDeane was so critical to discover it back in October 2021 and really go hardcore into her stuff, because at least she was a voice that's going against the stream of all the invader sort of stuff, right? And that's where it's been particularly brutal for me, because I've gone through the Asha stuff, but then come the other side of it, taking away the data points that are relative and might take on stuff to discern it and then flip it later, but then also employ her stuff as a layer of a pattern recognition relative to everything else I've done and stuff. And then, you know, like I've offered many times, like stepping into my leadership now of being a teacher and offering this stuff and really setting the bar very high, like working very hard on myself, and you know, that work ethic, sort of employing that into spirituality and healing, and coming to the conclusion of just appreciating how simple energy hygiene and sovereignty is. But it a lot of things, like say what I say in tent, like I'm very absolute in my tent now, And you might feel your intent of like, yeah, I'm 1000D, but you might have doubts in it and stuff, and they corrupt everything. And I just don't have those sort of things. And that's, you know, you see those martial art experts and they make it look easy and stuff, and they don't even look like they're doing anything, but they've been doing it like, say, Aikido or something like that for 30 years, and they just know what to do in the moment and trust it and go in the flow like a really beautiful Tai Chi sort of thing. So I emphasize the length of time I've been into this stuff and all that I've gone through and stuff. But ideally, like the metaphor of my DJing days, you know, I spent $5,000 back in 1993. I worked at Burger King for a year and saved up money, like $5,000, and invested in all that equipment, and then spent so many thousands of hours just trying to learn how to mix and putting vinyl together and stuff. And then I worked it out myself. But then I imparted it in 5 minutes to people. It took me like, you know, years to earn all that money to buy the equipment, the best equipment, find out music that I liked and how to get it and all that, and the styles that I liked, and put them together and make mixes and stuff. But then, like, it was many years of investment of learning the hard way, but to impart it, you know, so the people that I would lend my decks to and train up and show you how to do it, how easy it was, I could tell them in 5 minutes and they would pick it up, sort of thing. So I love that thoroughness and that long journey, and, you know, appreciating people and discerning and stuff and taking on the data. Basically, it's just about the data to launch your perception from, with a foundation of the truth, sort of thing. So to get to this point, to be able to offer this, and what I say about L, it's if you go back to GSF 38, in that I put a region of the world and a bit of focus and stuff, and it's really interesting. Since then I've had some pretty profound, amazing interactions that haven't been ideal, but it's very rich in data. Like, experience is the key to wisdom, and just this recent 3 or 4 months, it's just been next level on, because when I released that GSF 38, I put in that, to me, the pattern I was sensing is the aim is to move the UN over to Israel. And what does that mean? When does that plan to unfold, sort of thing? It was a massive risk to even say that, because it's like busted the plans and all the destabilization around the world at the scale that was going on, and then the expansion of countries, sort of thing, that's on the surface. So there's the surface Earth, and then there's the subsurface and the multi-dimensional level and stuff. So the way I feel us on the surface of Earth, it's like we all want the same thing. We all want to, like, ideally grow up, have a really amazing experience, learn all the wonders of this world, have the freedom to go wherever we want, and then ideally fall in love and have kids and pass on that legacy to the next generation, sort of thing. And me, and I don't want to get into too much about me and stuff like that, but I didn't have that sort of upbringing. You know, growing up in the 80s, it was like, I feel so privileged of having that, like the Stranger Things sort of life. It was literally like that, like riding bikes around. There was this movie called BMX Bandits, and Nicole Kidman's first movie, that was pretty big in Australia. Just having BMXs and riding around and stuff like that, and not knowing you didn't have much. And it was another real cool movie was Stand By Me, with the really cool cast that were young and that and stuff. It was like we went on adventures and stuff like that. But a lot of the foundation of what I've just tried to achieve is have a foundation of not what I had, and build a life to basically pass on that legacy if kids were a part of that. And it just hasn't been, and I'm here and all that sort of stuff. But what I'm getting to is, you know, the divides of the religions and the regions and the countries and all that sort of stuff. What it comes down to is humanity, like the pure incarnated souls on Earth and stuff. We all basically want the same thing. All the division is, you know, when you travel or you meet people and stuff, everyone wants the same thing. We're all pretty much aligned to what we want. But it's just this variable that's imposed itself in a subtle way now, like the ancient times, which I'll get into in a little bit. It was a lot more like harsher and brutal, and life didn't mean much and stuff, and the suppression was vastly more epic than what it is now. Now it's more like the technocracy sort of stuff. It's interesting, that concept. I only realised it early this year, but it's like being a variable out there, and it's very fascinating. I didn't explore that until just recently in putting it together. And there's all these epic teachers that I've found that have really great content that puts all the dots together with what I'm getting into, the multi-dimensional internet apparatus and stuff theme that I've started and we'll get into more. So what I was just trying to say is, it's not, say, me as where I am in this world being opposed to a different culture in another part of the world, particularly say what I'm saying. And it's more that the focus I'm wanting to do is the underlying subtle control that no one's really appreciated or offered, because it should be known. Like, this stuff I'm saying should be known, and if you're here, you should be asking the question, why don't you know this? What are the people that I've probably been following and blind to? And I would offer that a vast majority of the people I've been involved in are actually in alignment with all this, right? You cannot give the highly aware the benefit of doubt for not offering information, right? If they are presenting themselves as being and aware on a certain level, then this is easy to know. And to me, it's like just a massive like red flag of why you don't know this if you're here, right? Because the last recent era, I don't know, like going back to June 21st and what went on, and what I went to ground a bit, which is unusual for me, and then I released GSF 38, putting a lot together. And then putting things on the radar in your awareness makes me a sort of target, if that makes sense, and it's been a next level sort of thing. But I also have expanded my awareness to new territories and stuff, and so what I'm offering about me is probably your parallel in this era as well. So if your awareness goes off, then there's new rules, and then there's vulnerabilities and stuff like that. So it's just been like the level of coordination that's gone on around me. It's fascinating, and the way I am is, yeah, get smashed and stuff, take away the data of what's going on, work out a solution and go forward. So then the events happen, I get the data points of all those things and the regions and all that, and it just comes back to the patterns of comprehension and stuff. So it gets to what I'm about to offer here, because it might be like a big, massive download, and I wasn't sure if I was going to do an update or some sort of thing. I just need to get a lot of variables down and out, because then I'm not the single point of failure, and then I don't get targeted as much, hopefully, right? But it's been next level, and it's been next level because of what I'm going to share here. And I would offer that it's probably been the same for you if you've been really in partnership with what I've offered over the years. Like, people come and go and all this sort of stuff, but this, I think, is going to really put it all together, and you'll be able to like translate the reality a lot more, which means that this is a threat, right? And the sneaky fuckers on the behind the scenes doing stuff cloaked and all that, yeah, but it's all been in alignment with all what's going on in the reality and all that sort of stuff, right? And that might be very vague, but when I offer what's been going on, and I'm gonna I've got the data to go through of GSF missions with people and stuff, because I've been doing pure source healings, Earth Mother pranic healings, a lot of healing on me, patterning recognition and stuff like that. A lot of efforts to sort of take me out and make me check myself out and all this sort of stuff. And I know if that stuff's going on, then I'm really onto something, and something doesn't want me to do something, so it's incentive, right? It's confirmation. And so then just the level of stuff going on, then sort of falling back and engaging people and doing GSF missions and working things out when they've all been smashed as well, putting them back together, doing reciprocal healing, and then working out what's going on. And that's where we've come to this conclusion of what's going on. So that might be a little bit vague. It might be a reference of the pattern sort of thing, but I'm just going to get into a few things, all right? So this is going to be Galactic Special Forces 39. I'm not sure what the title is going to be, but one part of it I was wanting to say is the evil under L, right? Because Israel, it's EL at the end, right? And you got to understand that all the, like the video sort of sites, they transcribe everything you're doing and it's all being fed into stuff. So just be aware, like, the risks. But and again, like me offering all this data, it's going against the narrative in the spiritual community sort of thing, right? Because if you've gone through my recent videos, particularly Influences Part 8 and the last one I did with the dimensional levels of stuff, and I was calling out the spirituality and all that sort of stuff, and a big variable is, if you go back, that was months ago, like a month or so ago that I released that, I was getting all this governing structure underneath L, right? I'll just call it as L, if you know what I mean, because L is short for Anunnaki. It's a metaphor, and I won't get into that, but it's just, if you've explored other teachers and all that, it's been offered, right? And the interesting thing with L, and I've shared this with a few people, and that we all love Superman, right? And you know, the Superman symbol, it means hope in the language of the Kryptonites, but it's also the family sigil, all right? And the family is L, all right? So Superman is basically Anunnaki, right? And we all adore him and stuff, and that's where a lot of these things, they get put in front of us to have that adoration to project on, sort of thing, these concepts, and it's just in our face. And I love Superman, like Man of Steel and all, like Justice League, the Zack Snyder release of Justice League is freaking epic, right? It's pretty much my favorite superhero sort of movie, if you've seen that. It's 4 hours and it's amazing, right? But yeah, like, there's nothing wrong with appreciating, like, the nature of Superman, like he's a high moral sort of character, but it's like, literally, it's L, right? Anunnaki. So it comes from another planet, goes with the energy of our sun and has all these abilities and stuff. And so he's an alien and all that, right? Hate to burst your Superman bubble. I feel also I have to burst the spiritual Father Christmas thing going on of like, synchronicities and manifestations, and something bigger out there has got my back and I'm going to get gifts and all this sort of stuff. It's like, you know, that variable of the external, of something taking care of you, it's a vulnerability, right? And so just see that there's like a spiritual Father Christmas variable in the community, and people wanting to be taken care of and get all these goodies from something and all that. And I would offer it's governed by this stuff underneath L, like the evil under L, right? So I just wanted to offer that, right? And I'll just show you the image that I shared in the last video relative to the dimensional levels and stuff. But what I'll do is I'll just show you the awareness journey just before it, right? So if you've been across my stuff for a while, I've shared this for who knows how long now. It's like the dimensional awareness journey, right? And I've got this in my sovereignty declaration. If you've gone through that at the bottom, I include a lot of images now. So that's a good spot to get the data of these and see a better scale of them if you want to gain more insight of what I've shared. But this is like the metaphor of our awareness journey, and there's a spiritual no man's land that I've said in the past. Then ideally we get beyond that to be free, right? To get clear of all the level of the influence going on. And what we learned basically about a year ago is the concept of divide light, where light and dark were working together, like the indigenous and the invaders, they're like two parts of the same thing, right? And I love the indigenous and stuff, but you got to see that it was set up for failure, right? But long story short, what I'm getting to is just showing you this is a metaphor of our journey, right? Of what it's been like without knowing it. We've never been shared the dimensional level sort of stuff. And if you watch the release I did last, multi-dimensional method to the 3D madness part 14, I talked about 15D, right? And I shared clips relative to Bruce Cathy and all that. So that's there for you to explore, right? If you haven't. I've got mozzies around, so I've just watching out that I don't get eaten at the moment, alright? So this is an image I shared in the last video, right? And long story short, it's like the 3D 5 cents, the spiritual no man's land, and then our potential. And our potential goes beyond the 22D. I employ 1000D, and you think that's crazy. It's, why don't you just try and employ it and see what happens, sort of thing, alright? But it's about being out of reach of the invaders, because what I'm showing in this image was a lot of the dimensional level of mechanics that are going on. If we appreciate this, you can just see it's like an insert. That's the reason why I've drawn it this way, alright? So the reason why I'm showing this is that evil under L, to me, I'm not going to say it's all of the source of all this apparatus, but it's definitely a very potent variable that's, you know, if we see what's going on the surface with all the death and all that, right? What I might do is just show you the clip from Warcraft now that that is a powerful metaphor for what's going on with all the death, I feel, right? Because it feels like there's some very powerful players that know exactly what they're doing to feed the control sort of structure under there, alright? So what I'll do is I'll just show you that clip now. Because just take it as a metaphor to empower this insert, alright? So I'll just leave you with that, and I'll be on the other side, alright?
We are ready, Gulda.
I got it. Dad, Zara.
What did she say?
She begs for you to free her child.
But I need him. I need all of them. Move, half-breed.
What is that?
Gul'dan's magic. The fuel for my magic is life. We only have enough prisoners to send through our strongest warriors. But that will be enough. The enemy is weak. When we arrive, we will take them as fuel. We will build a new portal. And when it is complete, we will bring through all of the Horde. child? You dare bring that Wachuk into my warband? Let me go, Blacka! Blacka!
So welcome back. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Warcraft. It's very, very potent, alright, for a lot of concepts of corruption and invasion and hijacking and all that sort of stuff, and possession, alright. I've worked out in this recent era of like the strategies with possession going on. I feel like vast majority of humanity are actually possessed on some level, alright. And so if you go through an awakening, they might be all guard dogs around you. All the people that you thought you could trust would go from a dormant state to an active state of being run by the influence because it's not appreciated in society. And that's just like a gatekeeper sort of thing. If you're coming to your awakening, it's game on right out the bat, right? So yeah, that movie Warcraft in 2016 is a very epic movie that didn't do well, but it was like amazing teaching, right? But just see and appreciate the regions where there's a lot of death and continued suffering and all that sort of stuff. The level of suffering over in the land of El is just outrageous, alright? So to me, what I'm getting to is, to me, it's funneling all that energy to power up what's the apparatus, alright? Which I'm getting to. Just on a bit of a tangent before I get into the focus on that region and what's underneath it, right? Over this say in the last 3 months it's been on, right? And what's been running under there, right? Just say, going back to a few of my videos, just to help give some data points for this, I released Amplify the Echoes Part 12, which was the focus of this region, and what I was getting is that basically from the Asha perspective, it felt like Stargate 12 was in the wrong place. And I used the data from her stuff then, but what I feel is there's actually like a Stargate 13, and if we use that mechanics, and I was using, like, from Asha's perspective, like Stargate 12 was in France, right? And just look at the conflict and the focal point of what's going on in that land that I offer, land of El, alright? It's just been the focal point for going back to crusades and stuff like that. So what I was getting in this data point, going back to what I was sensing, I didn't probably have the right numbers and stuff, but it was definitely like I got, because of what went on, October 2023, it was like, we're getting everything wrong. The focus is on this, and a lot of the spirituality and all that sort of stuff isn't even looking at that, let alone, you know, the ET sort of stuff and that, right? And I was like, nah, this is on, right, for this region. So I just offer that video as a reference point. And then going back to last year, I offered Galactic Special Forces Part 32 and 33, and I might just show a couple of images relative to what I shared in that, right? So if you've gone through my sovereignty declarations, and they've evolved a lot in the last 18 months, right? What I felt like is what I got, some of the concepts that we can benefit from. And what I've imparted is violation is your asset, and injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere. So if you've been violated or hacked and all that sort of stuff, then the way I work my sovereignty declaration is the whole structure behind that, and all the alliances and vested interests and agendas and stuff, they're all vulnerable because of the violations that have been done to you. So if you engage your sovereignty in the way I've presented it, let alone do sessions with me, then ideally working that way, we can clear out the path for everyone else, right? And make it easier for those to come, right? So what I worked out back in those videos was I got, like, everyone that's sort of invested in my stuff, they've actually contributed to defending the earth, right? And it's not about me being better or whatever, it's about that self-mastery. But say the people that come through and all the stuff that's going on, then we can collaborate, right? And that's what I've worked out in the mechanics of my sovereignty declaration. That's why it's what I offer isn't supported, right? Because it comes down to, it shows the level of violations have been going on, that no one wants to sort this pure source concept, let alone do their clearing, because most people are being run by stuff and they don't even know it, right? And that's why my mechanics of interaction are very defined, because I know what's being run in people and they don't even know it, right? And so I can only create all this stuff and it's up to people to do it or invest in sessions for me and all that sort of stuff. But what I got in the GSF 32 and 33 is what I'm going to bring into is some of the GSF stuff that we worked out in the last few weeks, all right? So going back to them, didn't have all the data, it was running on instinct and the intent, like I said, and the feel as well. Like, I got the data and I offered it because it's not to pump you up, but it's, there's been something going on, we've never had clarity, right? And this GSF 39, ideally it's going to offer a lot of clarity of why we all run on the instincts we've had, right? So what I wanted to do is just show you, say if I do a session with someone, then all the violations is all the red sort of stuff, and then we flip it or we clear all that out, and that clears the path for everyone else, right? And the more that do it, build up momentum, and then ideally we engage our superiority, which is the 1000D sort of stuff, and align with pure source, and we're the authority of this universe, let alone the multiverse and stuff, and then we can clear all the path of all the stuff out, all right? So that's where it's been particularly brutal for me, because I've worked all this mechanics out and now some awareness threat, and then it comes back. But, you know, like I say, I employ violation as my asset. Now in my short and all the versions of version 5 of my sovereignty declaration, I've actually put the mechanics of what I do in my pranic sessions. I do it myself every day and all that sort of stuff. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and the level of focus sort of stuff of coordination of that, it only shows that, to me, I feel like I'm really on it. And a lot out there don't want me to say all this, so I've been debating about talking about this because it's not that safe, right? But I feel like I'll be safer if I impart this and it's out there so people can work it out themselves, and ideally be a big decryptor code for everything that's gone on, right? So that's the first image I want to show relative to those two, right? And I'm going to show another image that I worked out, I think about October or November last year, but it's built on this, right? The reason why I would know it was from last year is because I worked out with the people that I dealt with is there was a massive backdoor architecture going on throughout us. So all the Babylon massacres and all this sort of stuff, they're corrupting our DNA to create backdoor architecture so they could hack us all and stuff. So we're like pure source aligned beings in these bodies that we don't have ownership of because we don't have sovereignty, right? And there's a limited technology in them for us to have our intuitive abilities and all that, let alone this backdoor stuff. So we've been all doing our best with no awareness of all this stuff, right? And at such a disadvantage, but we've still been doing all this epic stuff to still be here, right? So this is what was going on, and it was like this corruption was going between us sort of stuff, and it's like, I don't have issues and I don't have issues, but then we worked it out, it's like, holy crap, there's a whole deeper level of architecture in our body set up to hack us and use allies as weapons and all that to create divide and rule and stuff, right? So we worked all this stuff out, it's all in my declaration. You can go back to the videos around then. I think it was GSF 37 and 36 was the pure source healing and all that sort of stuff, right? So what I was just offering is like, it's been brutal, we've never known what's going on, and chipping away, and just that intent and that integrity and that feel and instinct sort of stuff without the reference of the data and all that, right? The reason why I'm bringing this up as well is that after GSF 38 and all that sort of stuff and what's gone on and getting absolutely smashed and all that, and the reason why I shared that Warcraft video was like, one of the variables going on under the land of L, the evil under L, that control sort of stuff, was there's potentially a big portal and it needed to be blocked, right? So the intent was to stand in front of it and block it from all that, and that was a vulnerable state to be in. But just on my back like behind the scenes appreciation of all this, of not knowing what's going on, but appreciating there's something going on under there, sort of thing. And so if I sense the coordinates of a vulnerability of stuff, then I've got the answer as well. And so being aware of that on another level, the multi-D, it was just standing and blocking that. And I didn't know in the 3D what was going on. I was just getting hammered because, see, we all in our physical bodies, we're the anchor points of our soul's ability to operate here, you know, to be in the reality sort of thing, but then also on the multi-D to have an effect on the earth, all right? So that's where our 3D, we might get blocked. If you remember the image that I shared before, all right? I'll just show you it again, all right? That's where the invader insert has been put there to divide us from our multi-dimensional self. So our 3D awareness, we don't know what's going on the multi-D, but that aspect of us is working, but we're not in alignment with it. And this reality insert is there to prevent knowing all that, right? But I would offer, in spite of that, we're still been doing what we've been doing, right? And then we can get targeted on the 3D and destroyed, and that's what's been going on, all right? So it might have been a particularly brutal recent era for yourself and not sure what's going on and stuff, but I know in your own way you've probably been contributing to this on your region of your world, all right? I would say, you know, just say that you've been involved with this. It's very high level and not safe, right, with the way the reality is set up, but just appreciate all this. This might help clarify a lot what might be going on with you, right? And this recent era, particularly if you're aligned with me and all that sort of stuff, right? Because you're an awareness threat in your own right, okay? But ideally with me getting this out, it's about getting to the other side and engaging that superiority that we have and just anchoring it. Because it might be just a big breaking point now, right? So the reason why I'm sharing these two images and talking about GSF 32 and 33, if you were across them, all right, is that in the GSFs that I've done in the recent weeks, all right, was the first part we were standing in the way of that stuff, all right, and then we work, like I've been watching a lot of prank videos, like fart videos, just because, like, the joke that's going on, like, have a good laugh, right? And then there's all these old shower prank videos where a guy's standing over the top of people having a shower at the beach to clear themselves up after being in the water, and he's putting shampoo in their head when they're washing their head, and they don't know that he's doing it, and it's just like making people go nuts because they think they can't clear their hair of all the shampoo sort of stuff, all right? And then they just lose it, right? So the logic of, or what I take away from these pranks sort of thing is, well, if we got the superiority, then we can do stuff that we engage our superiority on all these variables, right? So I did a couple of GSS with someone, and I'm being very vague because just to not put targets on people's backs and stuff, but they were getting smashed as well, and it was like a chance to catch up and find out what the F has gone on and put ourselves back together. And I put them together, and then they checked in on me and stuff, and then we worked out what was going on. And we did a couple of GSFs, right, just to check in, because our worlds are just on the edge. Like, if you think you're in trouble, imagine what it's like being aware and anchoring and leading this sort of thing. And over a couple of missions, this is why GSF 32 and 33 I got the coordinates of what was going on then was so critical, right, to being here now, as well as my earth pranics, right, and source, the pure source healing that went on in GSF 36, is that what we got now is this person was able to tell, you know, what you were doing with all the earth pranics and working out all this mechanics like the 1000D pure source mechanics and reconnecting earth to source and all this sort of stuff, is there's been this big invasion species, all right, that's had a plan for a very long time to take over here, all right? And because of the earth pranics that I've been doing has changed the dimensional frequencies of things, all right? Their target of taking over has been, like, destroyed because of what I've done, all right? And they're not going to be able to do what they're going to be able to do, all right? And so the Earth protection sort of thing, like the Earth guardian sort of thing. And going back to like when I worked out, I could do, Earth came to me, and it was via Angela Miller back in 2021. And she's definitely like been aligned with all this stuff, and Andrew Bartz's and all that. And I was getting hammered involved with her. She was saying she was clear, and she was not. I was just getting absolutely annihilated like I do with most of these people. But in doing the healings on her, it was like all this group that were trying to prevent me having an awareness of what's going on with Earth. And that's where I got the Earth Akashic Bullshhitter sort of overlay with the Earth trapped. Her soul was trapped in the grids of all these grid workers of all the Anunnaki and Invader Alliance sort of thing, right? And yeah, it was like not meant to get through, but I got through and interacting with her. The Earth wanted me to do pranics on the planet. I was like, holy cow, you think I can do that? And like accepting your infinite, like it's been like a chipping away tippy-toe with me to be able to get to this level over so many years, and all these people I've dealt with have definitely been in alignment with that not being the case, all right? The long story short is, in these GSF missions these last couple of weeks, it was like, it finally became clear of what that achieved of defending Earth from this invasion of the species that's been planning to come here for a long time. So there's this movie called Arrival from 1996 with Charlie Sheen. There was a really awesome Arrival movie in 2016 by Dallas, the guy that made June movies and stuff, the director, and Sicario. And that's a cool movie, but it always, I went and rewatched that Charlie Sheen movie from 1996 where this species was creating like a very hot environment on Earth for terraforming Earth, all right, to allow for the invasion of their species to come and take over, all right? And I rewatched that just recently, the last couple of days, because of what we worked out in this GSF mission, right? A couple of these missions, first blocking what was going under the evil under L, right? And then doing a big, like, 1000D shampoo of all the violators, and we busted, like, the people going at me over this era as well. Same players, very aligned with the Akashic Records, Egypt, and invasion species like the Mantis and Dracos and all that sort of stuff, but they're not presenting it that way, right? But definitely the Anunnaki. And yeah, what worked out and why it's been so tough for me is that we've actually defended Earth and we didn't even know it, right? And just pissed these massive agendas of taking over Earth and all that sort of stuff off. So it was like a huge victory of getting that, and just the level of coordination going at, say, myself, all right, it's been next level. But again, it's like I use it all as muscle training, like intuitive muscle training. I might get smashed and I might have involvements with people that have these outcomes, but I get the data and take it away and then work out solutions and then impart them in what I do, right? And you only, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, all right? And so right now I feel like I'm the strongest I've ever been because I've come out of this, all right? My morning when I wake up, I was getting hacked in bed and stuff like that. There's been a pretty brutal hack going on with my legs and stuff like that, where I've always had good legs, and it's the nervous system sort of stuff. There might be stuff coming through of people that I don't even have interactions with yet and all this sort of stuff, and it's just all really interesting of the level of stuff going on. And because I'm going after this sort of thing under L, all right, it's shown me how masterful the influence has been going on, because I know a lot of people being turned away and all that sort of stuff, but it's all cool. Like, again, it's all about like intuitive muscle training, and you might have gone through it and come out the other side, and giving you all this data that I offer gives you the patterns for you to see what's going on yourself, right? So I'm just going to move on, right? So out of this, basically what I'm installing is the mechanics are worked out as superior. And this all mechanics is going on. It's like an insert to create the divide and rule between ourselves, literally, on the 3D 5-cent surface that most people accommodate. And then the mechanics that a lot of the coordination of the invaders sort of stuff is done, right? So I'm just going to show you the image that haven't shown for a while relative to the pure source and the invader overlay, alright? Because I did a pure source healing over early this week that was really big, right? So this is the image that I worked out relative to trying to explain the complexity of all this stuff, right? Last year, and in GSF 34, 35 and 36, basically we worked out that, well, I worked out and I wanted to interact with someone and do it in partnership with them, that basically I could do pranic healings on pure source itself, right? And I worked out that the source versus pure source are two different things, right? And so a lot of the spirituality sort of concepts are aligned to that, the manifestation, the money system, synchronicity, and all that sort of stuff, right? Because it all relates to the stuff under L, right? This evil under L as a big controller of all that stuff, right? So the reason why I'm bringing up this, right, and just injecting it now, because I think it's getting dark and stuff like that, is I do Earth pranic healings on her source and the surface of Earth as well, like the planetary body. But I also do pranic healings on source itself. And I actually did a really big one. Because the level of coordination of going on at me, if I don't feel unclear, I don't work, alright? I have to clear myself before I serve at this level, right? And the GSFs that we did, working out the invasion and blocking off the evil under L sort of thing, that happened before this. And so that working out that stuff cleared up the layers. You imagine like many streams of influence are coming out at me all at once, and it's very hard to work out what's going on, like the people around me, the possessed people, the haunted people, the chips and entities and people that target you, and the multi-D, right? The influence is going on and no one does any healing sort of stuff. It's pretty epic. And so once we worked out those GSFs of like putting ourselves back together and then working out what's going at us, that cleared up me to a level where I know when Earth is getting hammered, the stuff on her goes at me, and then Source as well. But this pranic healing on Source, what I worked out during the week is there was a massive Kundalini harvesting like on Source's base. So I see Source as David Hasselhoff, right? And imagine the base has a big like apparatus like harvesting Source's Kundalini, right? And that apparatus goes through to us all. So it was like the most nasty, horrible, fucked up crap hooking into the base of Source, right? To feed all this crap, right? Just like the Warcraft clip, right? So you might have felt a bit of clearing on the base if you've had issues on that, right? This week it was going like, this shit is just fucking evil. Just frickin' evil, right? And then it was going to feeding all the invader overlays and all this sort of stuff. So we cleared this out, but then the apparatus comes and stuff like that. They reanimate it, not to the level that it was, but every dirty trick under you can possibly think of and more has been done. So that was a really big clearing that I did this week on Source, right? So you might have felt shift and relief. It was very beneficial for myself after, because I just feel all this stuff going on, and it's trying to work out all the different variables, whether individuals in sessions, people around you, coming from this invader, like the evil under L and all that sort of stuff, right? So, yeah, that's something that went on this week, right? I'm just going to move on. I just had a quick pit stop. So, what I'm getting into a bit of the data now relative to coordinates, relative to the evil under L, right? And, these are just variables that what I wanted to do is just drop in a bit about Egypt as well, right? Because what I said about people that support Egypt, the Akashic Record and the off-world species and all those sort of things, right? Just realize like how little have ever been said about the Anunnaki. And I don't want to I don't take away the concepts of anyone else that's ever talked about them, but if I've ever shared the Ayani massacre sort of recordings with AshayanaDeane, there's 4 discs that are pretty amazing. If you go back to Amplify the Echoes Part 11, I started sharing that. And I was going to get into the whole brew to get to the Ayani massacre. And I haven't even shared those audios, which I'll look to do at some point. in an Amplify the Echoes sort of release. But in all that, it gets into the level of, if you go back to Amplify the Echoes Part 11, right, there's a lot of data in there relative to the bigger scales of that species, and it was basically credited to be a nemesis of humanity, right, and humans in the universe, right? And that's where AshayanaDeane talks about the co-convolution of source, like source got corrupted, where that's where we worked out the invaders relative to the pure source sort of stuff, right? So we worked out the corruption in her teachings relative to that, and it was the corruptions built through us from source itself getting hijacked at its conscious creation moment sort of thing, all right? So the ignorant, vulnerable, new source of this universe was targeted by much more mature and nasty variables out there, and that's where we're dealing with a lot of the invaders that percolate through. And we worked out it was 1 trillion years ago, and it's all trickled down since then, right? You can go back and listen to the Amplify the Echoes stuff of that for a lot more data of what I offered, but just realize what I was saying, how little the Anunnaki are being talked about. And so the Ayani massacre was 25,000 years ago. I might just share an image relative to that, relative to Amplify the Echoes Part 15 and 16, all right? You can go back and look at those two Amplify the Echoes, but the context of this image, right? Long story short, 25,000 years ago, the Ayani massacre was a massive defeat on the surface, right? And then we've been grinded down to be in what we're in, right? And in that release, or those two releases, I talked about how our DNA was corrupted with the invader sort of corrupt DNA to align people to the invader overlay rather than the pure source. So the green is the pure source, and the red is that invader overlay of what I shared, where relative to the invader overlay of source and relative to the pure source healing and all that, right? So the reason why I'm bringing up the Ayani massacre is that 25,000 years ago was a big marker point in linear time, right? And so since then, Egypt has basically flourished, all right? And so the 25,000 years ago from the Ayani massacre was when we lost control of the surface. They had total control of the surface, right? And what I'm getting into, and just getting to I'm going to do a whole Egypt video, right? But this is what I worked out relative to the pyramids, right? Because I've got clips of where Asher says that the pyramids are created by the Anunnaki, right? No one ever said that, right? And what I did is took that to a whole new level. You know how the pyramids are adored by people and all this sort of stuff because they're so can't be explained by our world, and we can't create them relative to the mastery that's gone on, right? So what that to me is instilled into us is we're insignificant and we're inferior to something much more greater out there, right? Because do you think they would leave the pyramids there if they were aligned to the positive sort of variables, right? It's like you have to consider just those variables of something superior, we're inferior, and it's like a bit of a subtle message of imposing that on ourselves subtly, right? That whatever's going on in our modern world is inferior to something vaster in the ancient times, right? And you take away that the earlier pyramids were much more superior than the more recent ones, right? So we're talking like over 15,000, 8,000, whatever years, right? 25,000 years. I would offer that the time isn't accurate with what they're saying and all that sort of stuff, but I can be wrong, right? But you take away what I'm saying, right? Because in the audios relative to Asher, she says that basically all the pharaohs and all that sort of stuff were the invaders species relative to the Anunnaki, the Draco, or whatever, right? And what I got, all right, with all those coordinates, and you can take this away as, you know, they talk about the King's Chamber and all that, and the Queen's Chamber or whatever and stuff, right? And there's never been an explanation of that, and people gravitate to them and want to be in them and all that sort of stuff. To me, and I've employed this clip from, he was a student of Drumbelow Melchizedek relative to Egypt and the initiations of the mystery schools and sort of stuff, bringing out talents and all that. And I might include his video here. Bob Frizzle, that's his name. And I've got his books. And he was a student of Drumbelow Melchizedek, right? And he's got the Flower of Life through his books and all this sort of stuff. I've got a couple of his books. I really liked him and stuff. I might include that clip now, right? Because I haven't shared it for a long time.
The significance of 12 years of emotional body training is that that is exactly what they were doing in ancient Egypt. There was a 12-year school, a 12-year Egyptian mystery school, if you will, that focused on emotional body clearing. The training was called the left eye of Horus. The left eye because the left eye is controlled by the right brain. It's the side of the mind or the brain that sees life intuitively. This is what was going on in Egypt. And I had 12 years exactly of emotional body training when the missing information began to, like I say, magically appear to me. So I was recreating unknowingly what was going on in ancient Egypt. There's 12 temples, 12 major temples in Egypt along the Nile. The initiate would spend about a year in each of these temples, learning how to move through fears and limitations associated with each of the 12 major chakras. There's one specific training that the initiate would go through in the left eye of Horus training in the temple known as Kamumbu. The initiate would stand in front. There would be a wall right in front of him, and then there would be 3 steps leading down into water, and it was dark. They couldn't see any further than the 3 steps. So the initiate was told only one thing, that is to go into the water and to find a different way to come out. That's all they were told. It was, again, dark, and it was deep. It was about 25 feet deep. After they carefully went through and came into an opening, they could see that there was a tank now that was lit. When they got into this tank, they also saw that they had company. There were crocodiles in that tank. And remember, the instructions are to find a different way out. Well, looking through the crocodiles, what they could see is that up at the top here, there was a way out. When they came to the top, they were told by the instructor, oh, by the way, you just failed. That was not the way out. So failure meant that they had to go through a lot more training. Then when it was thought, after much more training, that they were ready, they went back into the tank again. Now, this time they knew there were crocodiles. So, you know, in a way, you would think that makes it almost worse. In the moment of their greatest fear, they had to go deeper until they found the correct way out. So, to me, this just perfectly illustrates the whole concept of emotional body clearing. If you can allow yourself to have a thorough experience of something that you would otherwise tend to avoid or to resist, what happens is you move through it. In this specific instant, the fears integrate. So that by the end of 12 years of training, these guys were fearless. I mean, nothing bothered them. There was a person by the name of Akhenaten who came along and taught what was referred to as the missing information. Around 1355 BC, he taught the 12-year mystery school. The mystery school was known as Akhenaten's Mystery School, the Law of One. The symbol for the school was the right eye of Horus. This was left brain information, the male side, the logical side of how the entire universe is created by spirit and nothing. Akhenaten was a very special person who was brought here by the Ascended Masters to solve a specific problem. The problem being that as Egypt developed, they lost completely the concept of one spirit moving through everything. And they started worshiping all these different gods.
So it's pretty cool clip, hey. And I just wanted to insert it here because it's a good clip to put. But what I got about the whole mystery schools and stuff, they were looking for the highly aware, alright? And then, like, the pyramids, alright? What they were, from my perspective, they were like the ancient Cerebro, like in X-Men, alright? Because after we lost the surface, alright, we were all being hunted, alright? They had the superiority and all this sort of stuff, alright? And to me, what they were using those chambers for, to actually hunt down, like, the Guardians, the aligned with pure source, alright? So I might include a clip of Cerebro and stuff like that here, alright? Just so you see that it was like those to me. And the reason why they're all in different areas was they were trying to track us all down wherever we were, no matter on the multi-dimensional level, alright?
Logan, my tolerance for your smoking in the mansion notwithstanding, continue smoking that in here, and you'll spend the rest of your days under the belief that you're a 6-year-old girl.
You do that?
I'd have Jean braid your hair. Welcome back. No, just don't move. These lights represent every living person on the planet. The white lights are humans. And these are the mutants. Through Cerebro, I'm connected to them. And they to me. You see, Logan, we're not as alone as you think.
I found the base at Alkali Lake. There was nothing there.
The broken line represents the path of the mutant who attacked the president. I've been finding it difficult to get a lock on him.
Well, can't you just concentrate harder?
If I wanted to kill him, yes. Looks like he's finally stopped running.
Du bist gebenedeit unter den Frauen und gebenedeit ist die Frucht.
I might include a clip of Cerebro and stuff like that here, alright? Just so you see that it was like those to me. And the reason why they're all in different areas was they were trying to track us all down wherever we were, no matter on the multi-dimensional level, alright? And just the fascinating thing that people are drawn there and all that sort of stuff and the mystique and all that. I could be wrong on this, alright? But you just have to appreciate like the scales of things and how everything is wiped and why are they being left there, right? It's just fascinating. It doesn't add up, right? So I'll eventually try to impart an Asher sort of recording on Egypt and stuff like that to actually offer the data so you can hear it. But yeah, it was like, if you understand the Crystal Skull videos that I've offered and all that, I've got this bit of a theme. I'm not trying to make it up. I'm just offering a contrarian view of everything, and why we don't know stuff is they don't want to tell us all these data points of the accurate truth, to have the pattern recognition to see what's going on, alright? So to me it was like they were trying to breed people through those processes, and then they would use them to do that without them even knowing it, because they needed the DNA tech of the Earth sort of stuff to be able to run that, right? To find people and all that sort of stuff. Whether they hijack the bodies and all that sort of stuff, I don't know, but I just think that will be interesting for people to contemplate, right? But one or the other, I'll offer this now, all right? I talk about getting into spirituality 2008, and then 2010 I was back in Adelaide and all that sort of stuff. I didn't understand healing and all that until I went to sort of groups and stuff with, there's a big theme in my city of the Keys of Enoch, and it's J.J. Hurtak, right? The Keys of Enoch, and we know that being Enoch and stuff like that. It's Anunnaki, right? And again, we never had the context, and it's taken me all this time to find it, but again, experience is the key to wisdom, and going through all these things and stuff like that. And so I've explored a lot of healing with a particular being that's very heavily involved in the Keys of Enoch, right? And it's all about Star of Davids, chanting, doing grid work, doing it in Hebrew and stuff and that. And if you go back into Ash's teaching, these are the OGs of you that have gone through like the One World Order recordings and United Intruder Resistance and stuff. She doesn't actually mention the book in that, but she talks about, they refer to this, the Keys of Enoch by J.J. Hurtak, Hartuk, I think it is, and he's been around for decades and all that. He created the Keys of Enoch in 1972, right? And what Asher says is that Enoch didn't get onto a redemption contract until 1983, right? So the potential is that the teachings are corrupt. Does that make sense? Coming from the Keys of Enoch. And if you go through all the Asher recordings, she talks about Thoth and Enoch and all that sort of stuff. And Enoch was like one of the pharaohs and all that. And he wasn't the bad one, but they were leveraging people to do stuff. And I don't want to get into the stuff relative to Enoch, because there's other people out there. Go and listen to, I don't even want to say their names, or exopolitics sort of stuff, right? But what I'm getting to is what I worked out, the evil under L, is that that's where these fuckers are, alright, as well, okay? And that's where I was a threat, because I was perceiving this and I was going out, alright? And long story short is, I feel that has been an influence over me for a long time, because a lot of what's happened, like my bankruptcy in 2012, right? End of 2011, I was involved with these sort of things, and actually I saved someone's life and helped them have children when a partner was having miscarriages and stuff like that. And it was related to iodine and helping him get iodine, and they were actually being poisoned by lead in their roof, and using the drinking water that was coming off the roof that was contaminated by lead, because there was lead stuff in the roof, sort of lighter sort of thing, and they didn't know that. And that was the cause of all this stuff. Long story short is, I know I saved their lives, right, by doing what I did, altruistic, pure intent sort of thing. But this is the thing, if you change the outcomes for people, then there's an energetic cost, all right? So I didn't realize that, and I didn't know I could defend from that. But if you change the outcomes for people, there's a cost, all right? And that's where the bankruptcy, it was like, and that's the irony of, say, my journey and all that sort of stuff. It's like doing the right thing and all this sort of stuff. Long story short, this particular variable I've gone to many times, and it's even interesting in this hammering that's gone on. It's like, I know there's influence from that to get me to go that path, to get bodywork sort of stuff, right? But it's all related to all this stuff over there, because yeah, the J.J. Hurtak and the Keys of Enoch, it's very big in my city. There's a group called Sacred Resonance, and they're very directly aligned to J.J. Hurtak and doing grid work and stuff like that. And it's because they're very big related to the L region, all right? And it's just another variable of my experiences and things like that, all right? But it's definitely been a component to the violation of is your asset sort of stuff, and it's added to the data of the coordinates of all this, because it goes into the synchronicity as well. And I'll just finish on this because it's dark, right? What I got was, the thing that, if you watch the last video with the Bruce Catholic clip, he said that the Earth clock should be 27 hours, not 24, because it just worked out from a mathematical level. But we've been using the incorrect math, right? what I got with synchronicity is that the time variable is Chronos, which is Saturn, which is the daisy of death, all right, like the Metatron's cube, all right, and we cleared Metatron back in 2 years ago with GSF 27, right, and Metatron from the high level has been clear, but there's all this corruption still in the lower levels, and we're still dealing with it, and that's what's getting with this, the evil under L, because it's all related to the Anunnaki sort of stuff, right, that I'm bringing up here. And what I got was, you know, how people refer to time as a synchronistic sort of thing. I had this experience, an outcome relative to synchronicity, where I got a bit walked over and all that sort of stuff. But what I got from that was the coordination of these things, where a lot of the spirituality stuff like that and the reality is being run out of there. So you get Chronos, Saturn, the Star of David, you know, the Metatron's cube sort of thing. And you go through Egypt and you see like the flower of life, which is the daisy of death. It's not a positive symbol, right? And so what I'm just offering is all this stuff that we've worked out in the GSF. I had the data relative to synchronicity being run out of under the evil under L, right? And that's where I was saying in Influences Part 8, relative to some of the spiritual stuff, it was like, if you align to that sort of stuff, then the system's got you, because it's run from under there, if that makes sense. So it's dark, it's too late, all right? I just wanted to add that to the end. There's a lot more that needs to be said, but ideally, like, me offering these data points will help you flip some concepts that you probably assume were good or something like that, and you look at them in this different way. And then if you flip them and you see that, then it might be an unlocking code to unlock so much more, and you see the truth of what's gone on around you if it hasn't added up, right? But it's a brave release for me to be able to say all this stuff. I hope you get a lot from it. I hope it puts a lot more context that's been going on with you, and I hope it inspires you to take you to a whole new level and realize how epic you are. Like, it's been brutal and stuff, but I just so much love life and love being on Earth and being here now with this awareness. And if I've helped you to appreciate all that, as brutal and all that it is, it's like we're primed for everything, and there's so much untapped potential, and it's just people have to really, you know, get their spiritual fitness up and to be willing to push through the blocks or get help and stuff like that. And all my stuff, I offer it and I give it away to help you do it. But if you need help, I'm around and stuff like that. It'd be great to catch up and explore and see what's going on with you and who might have a bad day because of that, all right? But I hope you get a lot from this. Apologies for being dark. It took me a while to get set to be able to do this and impart this, because it's been a pretty brave release for myself, all right? But I hope this empowers you and you get a lot from it. And thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey. And until next time, guys, Andre, the brat from down under, out. Take care.
September, heading for the city lights. 975, we're sharing each other, nearer than farther. Scent of the lemon drips from your eyes. We are the people that rule the world, fostering in every boy and girl, all rejoicing in the world. Take me now. We can drive a little adventure, love in summer. Follow the sun tonight, reminiscing of the times of life. For each every other, the feeling stronger. Shock at 11, got lost in your eyes. Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now? Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now? Can you remember in human eyes? It was to where we'd energize, lie in the sand and visualize like it's 75 again. We are the people that rule the world, fostering in every boy and girl, all rejoicing in the world. Take me now. We can drive. Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now? Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now? Everything about you, know everything about me, know everything about us. I know everything about you, know everything about me, know everything about us. Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now? Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now?
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite, that we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.